In today's video, we have a very sizable update on the Persona franchise, specifically exactly what Persona 5 The Royal is, what Persona 5S and Persona 5 Arena are. Of course, P5 Arena is kind of self-explanatory. It's said to be another Persona 5 fighting game, but we've been wondering what P5 Royal is, as well as P5S, and Gear Nuke has a very sizable insight on the game, and I want to go over everything that they mentioned because Persona 5 The Royal looks to be a sizable expansion to the game. Persona 5S is what a lot of people speculated that to be, and then P5A also looks to be a pretty compelling fighting game, so we'll talk all about that. But first of all, let's talk about all of the Persona 5 news that is coming out. This is thanks to Gear Nuke. They've got the exclusive insight on the game, so we'll leave a link to their article in the description box below. But as far as their sources go, Persona 5 The Royal is said to be this. It's an enhanced version of the original game with new content. There's a very lengthy new epilogue component to the game as well. Now, this is pretty self-explanatory because this is the exact same thing that happened with Persona 3 FES. That added an epilogue as well, but that epilogue, traditionally, when you hear epilogue, maybe you're thinking a couple hours, 2 to 3 hours at most, but the Persona 3 FES epilogue, that was like a sizable 20 to 30 hours of additional content, so I imagine that this would be something of a similar sense. New characters would also be introduced to the game, integral to the story, including the girl seen in the previous trailer. There will be a female main character who is not the girl from the trailer. The Royal also looks to include new personas and social links. The source claimed that the game will have a ton of new content. It will be a PlayStation 4 exclusive, and Atlus wanted a worldwide release for the game, but that won't be possible due to the sheer amount of new content. I imagine translation would require a little bit of time for the Western release, so that is a little bit of a bummer. Now, the question remains, is this going to be a standalone release, or are you going to be able to buy it as DLC content for Persona 5? If you already own the game, even if it's a little bit pricey, if you could get the Royal for say $19.99, $29.99, whatever the case may be, depending on how much content it really adds, that would be really nice, because gone are the days of when Persona 3 FES came out and we bought Persona 3 for $50 and then we dropped another $30 for Persona 3 FES. Could we get the Royal released as DLC content as well? That'd be great, but that would be shifting it a little bit from how it was done in the past. But obviously, times have very much changed since the release of Persona 3 and Persona 4. While those games had enhanced versions released as standalone versions, in the case of Persona 3, it was on the same platform. With Persona 4, it was on the PS2 and then the PS Vita as well. Again, things are so much different now where you do have downloadable content and everything like that, so hopefully that could be implemented as well. But nonetheless, Persona 5 is such an incredible game that whatever Atlus and Sega wants to do, they'll probably get away with it just by the basis of how much gamers are invested into Persona 5. So really, that's just the thought process on my end. If they release Persona 5 The Royal as, say, a $39.99 standalone release, people would still probably end up buying it. But also, we have some inclinations on what Persona 5S is. Now, the S was thought by many to be a Switch version of the game, and that looks to be what it is. From Gear Nuke sources, they said the source has heard that Atlus has been working on a direct Persona 5 port for the Switch, which will not feature the enhancements of Persona 5 The Royal. There is, however, talk of some Nintendo exclusive content, so that's a little bit of a bummer with Persona 5S. If it is ported to the Nintendo Switch, it wouldn't have the Royal's content. Maybe it would be released as DLC or another game down the line. I don't know. At that point, it seems a little bit milking to me. Could you imagine if they released Persona 5S as a Switch game and then they released The Royal as a separate Switch game down the line? That would be a little bit too much in my eyes, but whatever the case may be, I think a lot of people would love to have Persona 5 on the go on the Nintendo Switch, so would love to see that come to fruition as well. And lastly, Persona 5A is another game that seems to be in the works, and that looks to be a fighting game in the Persona 5 universe. The source claims that an arena title for Persona 5 has been in the works for a while now. The assumed Persona 5 Arena was supposed to release sooner, but developer Arc System Works was too busy with Dragon Ball FighterZ and its post-release content. Now the studio is finishing up Grand Blue Fantasy Versus for Psy Games, which is set to release later this year for the PlayStation 4, and apparently a small team is working on the game right now with full development to be initiated after the Grand Blue Fantasy Versus project is completed. The game is set to run on an iteration of the Dragon Ball FighterZ engine, which does support Switch, so you would imagine that P5A could also be released on the Nintendo Switch. Now, if you aren't completely sold on a Persona fighting game, let me point to you guys Persona 4 Arena, which was a very compelling Persona fighting game. It turned out really well, so I would imagine something very similar out of Persona 5A, just to wean out a little bit of skepticism for those of you thinking that Persona couldn't work in a fighting game format. Hey, we've got Persona in a traditional JRPG, we've got Persona in a music rhythm dancing game, and we've got Persona in a fighting game. Persona is a series with a lot of legs to it, and a lot of variety of what it can actually bring to the table. Again, right now, take all of this as rumors, but Gear Nuke does have official official sources. And they do know, make sure to mark April 24th and 25th on your calendars for more information directly from Atlus, as they are set to reveal more content about these games. Persona 5, obviously a game that Atlus and Sega have realized has a lot of legs to it, a game that could be monetized for longevity, and a game that they could really create some residual revenue out of. Not to the extent of, say, what Rockstar has done with Grand Theft Auto 5, in that they'll release it for every platform known to man, and they'll continue to release online content and everything like that. But Persona, on a more niche sense, is a game that has been received so well that you can monetize it for an extended period of time, and I don't think gamers would be all too upset about it. More Persona 5 content would be welcomed by gamer, and in an age where you see a lot of franchises be very redundant and release content year over year, Persona is one of those franchises that it actually seems like there's a lot of clamoring for it, and it goes to show there was a 9-year gap between the release of Persona 4 and Persona 5. The appetite is there for more Persona in whichever form that it comes in, whether it be a music rhythm dancing game, whether it be a fighting game, whether it be more content to the JRPG. People want more Persona and the appetite is there, so it's time for Sega and Atlus to start feeding that appetite and create more compelling content. But we understand, to create content at the Persona 5 level, to make it as best as possible, that does require a little bit of time. So I'm not saying release Persona games every year, but I would like to see Persona be a little bit more of a consistent fixture to gaming, and I think that would be best for all parties involved, as long as they can maintain a certain level of quality. Also, let me offer to you guys this. It was noted by Atlus pretty recently that they are completely open to the release of Persona 3 and Persona 4 on the PlayStation 4 as well, or a litany of other platforms, just bringing Persona 3 and Persona 4 back and porting those games to current-gen platforms. And let me explain to you guys why that would be so incredible. After the release of Persona 5, it really seems like Persona has broken through. Not to say necessarily it's a mainstream franchise now where everyone knows about it, but it's definitely a franchise that is heralded at a higher elite status in gaming. It's still a franchise that goes a little bit under the radar to the mainstream audience. I mean, Japanese RPGs kind of fall into that role unless you're a Final Fantasy or a Kingdom Hearts or one of these big budget Square Enix properties. Everything else kind of falls under the radar a little bit, even a Tales of and games like that. However, Persona 5 is really hitting that threshold where a lot of gamers are appreciating it for what it is. Even Western gamers that aren't completely into Japanese RPGs. And I offer to you guys the other fact that Persona 3 and Persona 4 are old games, but they hold up incredibly well. That's why when Persona 4 Golden was released on the PlayStation Vita back in 2012, 2013, it was received incredibly well. So why not bring that game to the PlayStation 4, see what it can do? And I think if you were to release Persona 3 FES and Persona 4 Golden in a collection for even $59.99, gamers would be all over it. As I mentioned, there's this appetite for Persona. We want more Persona, we want more Shin Megami Tensei in general, but Persona has been absent for so long in gaming, and again, I pointed that 9-year gap between Persona 4 and Persona 5. Yes, there were these spin-off titles, Persona 4 Arena, we had P4 Golden, but in terms of new iteration, it was completely empty, and now you have Persona 5 that has really made the franchise transcend into a new level. Again, not at that mainstream level, but it's right there, and I think it's considered on par with some of the best franchises in gaming, and that appetite is there. Now it's time to make sure that this groundswell of appreciation for Persona persists, because if we're gonna wait another 9 years for more Persona content, which isn't gonna be the case, we're gonna get the Royal, which is at least something, but I want to see more Persona content roll out. Let's get Persona 3 and Persona 4 on the PlayStation 4. Hell, make it a PlayStation 5 port if anything. If you want to do that, let's just get more gamers playing these Persona titles, because there is a history to this series, and even if it's not a Persona 6 right away, at least you can ease the wait a little bit with entries like Persona 5 The Royal, with entries like Persona 4 Golden and Persona 3 FES coming to the PlayStation 4. Hell, if you want to go back to Persona 1 and Persona 2, bring those to the PlayStation 4 as well. Maybe even remake those games from the ground up. I don't know. There is just a lot to be had with Persona. Hell, remaking Persona 3 and Persona 4 with modern visuals, gamers would be all over that. I just think there's so much untapped potential with Persona, and after the success of Persona 5, now it's a greatest hits title on the PlayStation 4. Let's really see how big this franchise can get, because with the advent of social media, with games like this really getting more and more attention these days, I think the overall ceiling for Persona is incredibly high, and yes, relegating it to just the PlayStation 4 will suffocate it a little bit, so that's why I'm all for the game being ported to Switch. I'm all for these games coming to PC at some point. I'm all for them even coming to Xbox One. Maybe they won't resonate as hard on the Xbox One, but hey, more gamers playing Persona, I think, is the best. And that's gonna conclude this video. Again, I wanted to go over that Gear Nuke report, but I also wanted to give you guys some sort of inclination from me on how I want to see Persona handled in the future, because I don't want to wait another 9 years, 7 years, whatever many years. I just want more consistent Persona in my life, and I think a lot of other gamers feel the exact same way. So that's gonna conclude this video. Make sure to sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Are you interested in Persona 5 The Royal if all of this content is to be confirmed? Would you buy the game if it was a standalone release? What about Persona 5 on the Nintendo Switch? Would you double dip and get it again on the Switch? And what about Persona 3 and Persona 4 possibly making the transition to the PlayStation 4? There's just so much potential in the franchise heading into the future. And with P5A as well, a fighting game within the Persona 5 universe, that has a lot of potential. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.